Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to another episode of Friends of the Squared Circle, where I'm your host, Crander Hugh, a.k.a. my real name. And before we bring on today's guest, let's give a huge shout-out to our sponsors here at Friends of the Squared Circle. Darren Corbin is a sponsor here. You can follow him on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. Yes, folks, Darren Corbin is on TikTok. Another great way to support Darren Corbin is on patreon.com/Darren Corbin, where tiers start at just $1. Go ahead and check out our other sponsors there for all your custom tumbler needs. As you can see, we got a Darren Corbin, Eric Cannon custom tumblers there, as well as Joey and Sierra, who got their custom tumblers. You can find them at facebook.com/Superior Creations for all your custom tumbler needs. And a huge shout out to the boys at 13 Cards Subject to Change. You can give them a like on all social medias there at 13 Cards Subject to Change. Our boys, Zach, Jesse, and Leroy. Happy birthday, Leroy. And without further ado, let's bring our guest in today here. We have Nick from Below Zero Wrestling. Sorry, I'm stumbling. There we go. Had to get that graphic off the screen. I was just a little too slow there. All righty. How you doing, Nick?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Another beautiful day here in cold Superior Wrestling. That's a tie into that beautiful sweatshirt I see you're wearing there, Below Zero Wrestling. We'll get into that today. And but first, how are you?
I'm good. I'm doing good. It being 17 below right now, I'm doing all right.
Well, you got us beat by probably 15 degrees. We're probably -3 or more now. I haven't been outside for a while, but yeah, definitely fitting for the name of your promotion there out of North Dakota there. So
yeah, if there's a time of the year that fits the name perfectly, it's right now. I mean, it is now.
So do you plan on running any outdoor events in the next month or two? Just kidding.
No, but I'm not going to lie to you that I have thought about it before.
Oh, that they're all out there in their little winter jackets and stuff. That would just be crazy. Yes. As you can see, our little name brand or name things there are blue to fit the theme today, as well as our little ticker down below, just because you're here. So making it all blue for you. Perfect. So, Nick, we're just going to dive into it here. Can you tell us some of your earliest memories of wrestling?
Oh, yeah. 1990 Summer Survivor Series is the first really big wrestling event that I remember. I'd have been about 5 years old, and it was something that sticks on my mind. It's something I still watch to this day. It's my favorite pay-per-view mainly for that. Just the larger-than-life characters, the event itself. That's kind of where I look back on what I remember first. And then, I had a few other events that I either went to or watched, but that one for sure, 1990 Survivor Series.
And it's so great to talk about the 90s and 90s wrestling. That's the area that I grew up on. Was there anybody that you gravitated towards in those first earliest memories?
I mean, like anyone else at that time, especially kids, Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior. But, tag team always really got me. Demolition, Hart Foundation, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty with the Rockers. I mean, I became a really young tag team fan, and I don't think that's, super common. But yeah.
Definitely a new perspective here at Friends of the Squared Circle. So
yeah.
And what was it about those tag teams that you liked?
It just, they were so different. It just wasn't your typical singles match. It was they were the team, and I was so into sports and and maybe because that Survivor Series was that first event that really got my attention and really got me involved, because that's tag teams, it's four guys on a team, but still essentially it's the same thing. So maybe it was just that. I don't know, but I've just always been such a big fan of tag team wrestling.
Yeah, you mentioned the Rockers. They were kind of the new school coming in at that time period, whereas the Hart Foundation and that had kind of already solidified themselves, as well as Demolition. They had that separate gimmick. Were you more intrigued by Michaels, or Jannetty there in that tag team?
I will. Man, that's tough, because I honestly think that Jannetty was maybe the better wrestler.
Okay.
As I look back on stuff, and one of a huge memory in mine, or a huge moment in my wrestling as if anyone, is obviously the barbershop window.
Yep.
when that happened, I was like, because they were I was a huge fan of them. Like that was like heartbreaking, Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
But I mean, so I mean, to pick one or the other, I can't probably, but I did gravitate a lot towards Marty Jannetty.
Okay. Yeah, that's a unpopular opinion for me. I wasn't too into them. I kind of liked the Hogans and them back in the day. But then I was also a WCW kid. So you weren't scared of Demolition. I mean, a lot of people, I'm assuming, would be scared of the guys with the face paint, the red tongues, the gear.
Yeah. No, I wasn't.
Okay.
And we've spoken in the past about some figure collecting, and one of the reasons is because one of my favorite childhood figures growing up was Crush from Demolition.
Okay.
And he wouldn't be. A lot of people don't consider him, part of the original, true Demolition guys. But that's when I started really liking them, because maybe of that, or just because at that time is when I really could comprehend wrestling, is when he was involved with Demolition.
Right. Now, did you recognize him from his earlier gimmick when he was just Crush, or more just when he was with Demolition?
I mean, both, because I mean, he went out after Demolition. He stuck with the Crush. He was Kona Crush then for a while.
Okay.
After that, and I don't think he was called Crush before Demolition. I think that's when the name Crush originated. But I could be wrong on that. But
okay. I also might have my timelines a little messed up. I know for Demolition, I was kind of just not necessarily weirded out. I just kind of was confused by it. And then, like every other kid, they probably liked the Road Warriors, which I did, because they had the shoulder pads with the spikes, also the face paint.
Another great tag team that I once tried to make the spikes on my shoulder pads. It looked terrible, but I tried.
So. That is awesome. I'm just picturing, you all dressed up and all that. That's great. I never really tried to emulate any of the wrestlers, probably except for Hulk Hogan did the poses. But as we know, I'm not a body guy.
Yeah.
Was there any other tag teams that kind of stuck out to you at that point then?
At that point, not specifically. I mean, the Bushwhackers, obviously, Tugboat and Typhoon.
Yes. Natural disasters. Yep.
So actually, Typhoon and Earthquake, but from Tugboat, he turned into Typhoon. That was a really, again, favorite one of mine. And as I got a little bit older into WCW, I became a really big WCW fan. So the Steiners are one of my favorite of all time.
Okay.
I mean, I just tag team wrestling, and don't get me wrong, I love singles wrestling. My favorite wrestler of all time probably is Hulk Hogan, just because I think what everyone is. But I do have that special appreciation for tag teams.
Yeah, we haven't really talked too much about tag teams on here, so I'm kind of enjoying this here. Harlem Heat was one that I really liked from WCW. I really liked the Nasty Boys. I really appreciated. I like the Killer Bees. I just thought that was kind of a cool concept where they put on the hoods and then they kind of confused the refs, because at that time there was really nothing like that until I saw the Bellas doing that, which I think is cool as well. Twin wrestlers, rolling in and out as a great way to get, as they say in the wrestling business, heat. I don't like using the terms too much, but definitely a creative thing. I'm trying to think. There was you mentioned when we were talking off camera about you like Jim the Anvil Neidhart with Owen Hart a little bit more. Where everybody else liked the Hart Foundation.
I don't know. Yeah, just tag teams. Even when I've looked back as I got older, into the Attitude Era, some of my favorite wrestlers were part of tag teams. Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, the New Age Outlaws. I mean, Road Dogg and Billy Gunn. Some of my favorite guys originate from tag teams, and a lot of guys have been in there, but I don't know. I've always just been drawn to it, and even now, being a promoter and everything, I love tag team wrestling, and it's just something I think the casual fan doesn't either get enough of or get as much, or they look down on it, where someone's like, oh, it's tag team, it's not as good as the singles, but you find some guys like FTR right now or something like that, you find better wrestlers. hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, like tag team wrestling is its own monster itself because like you never know where the action's going to come from. Like you have your standard tag team wrestling, you have your tornado tag, you have your just two guys and obviously a team thrown in a cell getting there, like the Usos and New Day when it's just like Xavier Woods and Kofi. They just tear it up, and I feel like it's a lot more action and then double the fun. Obviously because it's a team. So
exactly.
Was there any tag team that you just hated? It doesn't have to be real, obviously, hatred. We like to, not cause any drama. But was there like a tag team that you just couldn't stand when they wrestled your favorites?
I mean, obviously, you're going to have all your heels. Like, you're not going to like them, but not so much that they were a tag team. They were a group, but I couldn't stand the Four Horsemen.
Oh, okay.
Couldn't stand them. And because I couldn't stand Ric Flair growing up. Like, I honestly thought, like, he was if he was on TV, I wanted nothing to do with wrestling. Like, I despised the guy. And then I would go through spurts, like, depending on who was wrestling, like, the outsiders. Like, if Hall and Nash were wrestling someone, I just really didn't like them. Not that necessarily I didn't, like, dislike them. It's just I couldn't go for them. You mentioned the Nasty Boys earlier. I never liked the Nasty Boys. Growing up, I just thought that it just was someone that I never liked whatsoever. But, the Beverly Brothers, that was another one. Oh, I did not like the Beverly Brothers either. So, but yeah, I didn't ever like hate anyone as a tag team. It's just if you were wrestling one of my teams, I did not like you.
Yeah. And I like some of the teams that just get thrown together too, because it's, this is where sometimes I don't like the wrestling fans is they're like, oh, they're not doing anything with so-and-so, or he's a jobber, or he's always getting, buried. It's just like, well, let the story progress. Like, for instance, like the Bar. I love the Sheamus and Cesaro. Like that was just something that kind of naturally happened. And then as they kept having more matches, you saw them come out with the matching gear. Their movesets kind of, lifted each other up. And they're one of my favorite tag teams, and same with Jerry Show. I wish that would have been more with the Big Show and Chris Jericho because, you got necessarily, pun intended, the giant, and then you've got the guy who runs his mouth because he's got the big heater behind him,
No, there's sometimes you can throw together some guys, and for a long time WWE, that's how they did their tag team division. Oh, we don't have you in a singles feud, so you're just going to be put together. Like Rated RK Bro, that's one of my favorite like throw togethers with Orton and Edge. But I mean, yeah, they would just throw teams together like Jericho. Like you forget about them until someone brings it up, and you're like, man, they actually like, worked well. Hulk Hogan and Edge were a tag champion at one point. Like, so I do like when they can do that and guys can make it work. So I think a lot of times when you start in the business that you instantly get thrown into a tag team sometimes too. You're like, oh, you're green, we're gonna hide you in a tag team.
Yep. Yeah, and what I think a lot of people don't realize is too is that them teaming with that person will give them, the rub because like they're working with a bigger star. Now, I'm going to use this comparison. I know I'm going to get eaten alive when I bring this one up, but Cody Rhodes and Hardcore Holly. Obviously Holly was a more established star, and Rhodes coming up, not to feed off that name at the beginning, but they threw him in a tag team.
Yeah. I mean, they did it with. I mean, they've done it throughout the years. I'm sure if a person sat and thought about it enough, you could find some others. I mean, or when they just don't have anything, the New Rockers. With Marty Jannetty and at the time Leif Cassidy, but Al Snow. Two guys that have nothing going on, so we're just gonna throw you in there. And now we have the New Rockers.
I was just gonna bring that up. Yep. Cal Hero and Al Snow.
I saw that on Facebook. I was like, man, my fan, like, my, like, the dumb fan in you, like, not that, but you're just like, that's so cool. Like, that's so cool. And they have the gimmick.
Yeah.
And they have gear and everything.
Yeah. Even though, like, it wasn't like a prominent, Mega Powers or Headbangers or anybody like that. It's definitely nostalgia. I did read Al Snow's book and how he talks about his stuff with Jannetty, but it made me pop thinking like, oh my gosh, they're bringing that back.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool, and it was done, I think, because Jannetty wasn't able to attend an event or something like that. But I mean,
yeah, I know he had a lot of. I don't want to really get into, because I wasn't there. I don't know the specifics, but like the substance abuse there kind of, had some issues there. But hopefully he can come back from that.
Yeah, no, it's really cool what they've done though, how they've like taken that just to kind of relive that, like you said, nostalgia, but yet make it work for the independent scene in that area.
Yeah, and I love like that Sean Waltman was part of DX and stuff. Yeah. But one of the other things that was, again, back to this tag team to stay on that topic, is with him and Kane. Like that told a story, how Kane got his voice, and it kind of led to that feud, and it's just something different. It'd be nice if they brought him back with Kane to see if people kind of get that. Oh my God, I remember when that was a thing.
Yeah, I've listened to Waltman talk about that before. Like some of his favorite stuff was with Kane, and in that tag team, and then into the feud, and it again a tag team that you just don't think is going to work, and it does. And Kane's done it with a couple people. I mean, he did it with Daniel Bryan then afterwards.
Yes, Team Hell No, like that. Yeah. Like that's another one that would be great if they just did like a backstage segment. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I gotta calm down. Where if they're just standing back there and it's just like, the click,
Yeah. No, it's awesome when stuff like that works. For every time that it's worked, obviously there's probably 5 to 10 times that it hasn't worked. But it's so cool when it does. And when you have two really good superstars, because as singles competitors, they were great. John Waltman, he's a top 5 guy for me all time. So I love that when he can do stuff, minus that stable. I forget the name of that stable he was in. It was him, Prince Albert, and was it Just Incredible?
Yeah, I just watched a match a while back with those three, and I was like, "What the hell is this?"
I was like,
they went over, but I mean, Back to X-Pac real quick. I just want to throw this out there if he ever watches or if I ever get a chance to meet him again. I just want to say, like, I am so excited to see, because when I first met him, it was at a Heavy Round Wrestling show they had, and he just looked all out of it. He was late. He was just fidgeting around. And I was just like, I'm not spending my money on that. So I went over and got pictures and autograph with Luke Hawk. I remember Rick Steiner just, being pissed as they're walking through the casino because of the way Sean was and just organized, didn't know left from right. And then to seeing him at, a more recent show where he looks healthy, he's clean, he's got Lula, just looks like $1 million now. And he's overcome that, and he doesn't get enough credit for that. And I feel like I want to put that out in the universe that we need to celebrate how good he looks. He's getting in shape. He wants another match, and his boy Triple H is working there. Put him in NXT. Get him the send off he deserves for 20 some years in this business. The dude deserves it. He also deserves his own spot in the Hall of Fame. It's either 1, 2, 3 Kid or Sean Waltman, X-Pac, whatever he goes by, to solidify him as a industry leader. And I'm going to say that word because Jericho talked about how he had to work with him to, learn the style, and bro needs his props, and I think that would set him apart from just being a part of DX. Being a part of NWO and just carrying the bags, as people like to give him crap for. But they need to put that man in as himself. He deserves it for all the hard work that he's done over his career and overcoming those obstacles. This is my stand on Xbox. I just think he deserves it. He deserves the recognition, and I feel like they need to do that to solidify him as himself. So,
I mean, I agree. I am so happy that when guys, are able to, whether it's in the wrestling sports or, someone that's a prominent figure is able to overcome those demons, because so many of them have them.
Yep.
And especially, back from the, wrestling in the 90s, early 20s, like so many guys went through that in the talent, and to see him be able to come overcome it, that's awesome, because I love X-Pac. I love that character. When he showed up at NWO, I wish there had been more there, but obviously the personal stuff was there.
Yep.
I've watched matches from Where You Can with him and Jerry Lynn back in the Minnesota early days. He was ahead of his time, and Jerry Lynn was as well. Those guys were just little spitfires, whatever you put in the ring. And I love any version of Waltman. Sometimes we're better than others, but I've always been a huge fan of his. 1-2-3 Kid, the Hasbro. That's one of my favorite figures still. So
sorry about the little glitch there. I just accidentally kicked the ring light. I thought the whole thing was going down. That'll be a blooper for next season. But he always put on a decent match with whoever he was with.
Yep.
I've watched a few with him and Jarrett. I know Jeff Jarrett gets a lot of shit, but I loved Jeff Jarrett as a kid. He comes out with a guitar, smashing over people's head. You get the action figure. You get the cool guitar, so you can recreate that at home. Like Honky Tonk did it, but I feel like Jeff Jarrett took it to a whole nother level. So
Jarrett was my Ric Flair as I got older.
Okay.
I couldn't stand him. Like when it was NWO 2000 or whatever NWO Legacy or whatever they called it at the very, very end of WCW, like I couldn't stand him. And I didn't like him as Double J Jeff Jarrett in WWF, and TNA I couldn't stand. But then again, maybe that's good, because that's what he was supposed to do. You weren't supposed to technically like him. He was a heel.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, definitely. I know with the TNA run, a lot of people hated that he kind of put him up, self up there. But in the beginning, it made sense because unfortunately he was like the marquee draw. Not that no one else was, but then he started getting like Kurt Angle, and he got Nash, Booker T, the Foley. Then I understood that yes, now you have some people that you can share the wealth with. But I love Jeff Jarrett. I love X-Pac. Some underrated guys there. I'm sure I'll get chewed up on some internet stands, but
it's all right.
It is what it is. It's my opinion.
Exactly.
If you have an opinion, feel free to comment. Be respectful. Or start your own podcast. I'm just kidding on that last part, but so was there anybody else outside of the tag team that you were a huge fan? You mentioned Hogan. Was it more the red and yellow Hogan, or was it more NWO for you?
It was all the Hogans.
Oh, okay.
This is
that is super cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it is earlier. Obviously, someone's got to watch the other episode that we did. But Hogan for me was like as a fan as a kid, like I followed him in every essence of who he was. So from Hulkamania to WCW, where he was still red and yellow, but he wasn't Hulkamania anymore, to being 10 years old and pretty much crying in my living room when he turned heel, because I thought that Hulk Hogan's done. He's done. And then within 6 months, I'm like, man, I love this guy. And then coming back, to WWE for that final run. I wasn't huge in TNA with him or Impact or anything like that. But, Hogan's always won. And then X-Pac has won DDP. As I gotten older, Edge, Chris Jericho, CM Punk, AJ Styles. It's hard for me to sometimes rate guys or rank them who's your, because it seems like it switches every day, whatever kind of flavor of the week you are,
Yep.
And I'm sure there's people I'm forgetting, but I don't know. There's so many out there that have just been Bret Hart.
Okay.
So I could go on for a long time.
So now we kind of went off on a tangent of tag team wrestling.
Right.
We didn't get into all the categories, which is fine, because this is more about you than anything else, where you're on Friends of the Squared Circle, where you are the star. That's a new little tagline. So obviously we mentioned kind of the Below Zero sweatshirt there.
Yeah.
What kind of got you to that point where you wanted to get into that part of the business?
You know, when you're 20 years old, you're like, I want to be a wrestler. And then you're like, I can't be a wrestler. And then you're like, oh, I'm going to be a manager. And you're like, I can't be a manager. Like, and then you got to the point where maybe 5 years ago, roughly, there was an opportunity, not a huge opportunity, but there was a talk about me actually buying a different promotion in the Fargo area, and that it didn't work out, and that's all right. I don't think that at the time I would have been ready to do that anyways. I had just started another company, my 9-to-5 job for pest control. So about 2 years ago, it just randomly happened where Zach, my business partner, put something up on Facebook, and we just talked, and then all of a sudden you're like, man, I think I can do this. Like, I think I'm ready to start a promotion, and it's just been such a wild ride since, and I love it.
Perfect. So how did you, now obviously, below zero, the cold weather, was that why you chose that name for your promotion there in North Dakota?
Yeah, I mean, it fit. We wanted to do something different other than like North Dakota Pro Wrestling, or Fargo Pro Wrestling. Like, we wanted to do something different. Obviously, our sights were always set on North Dakota, but we have, we've done a couple shows in Minnesota, and spoiler alert, I'm probably checking off 2 more states next year.
There we go.
One for sure. Hopefully another one. So we wanted it to be where, it just like, our tagline at the bottom says North Dakota Pro, home for pro wrestling, but we wanted to be something where if we weren't in Fargo, if we weren't in North Dakota, that we could kind of spread out a little bit. And Below Zero just fit, because I'm not going to California to run an event. I don't foresee that ever happening. But I do, know that I'm going to be in areas that Below Zero fits, because anyone that lives here, well, they recognize it.
Yep. And definitely it's nice to see another wrestling promotion, not only in our area, but in that neck of the woods, to help the talent make their way either west or east or north or south. Yeah. Because obviously you'll be seeing the people in Minnesota where I gravitate towards, where we met, where you happen to come into Minnesota, which is great. Another promotion, more stars, new names, new faces. So it's like you said, you never run to California, but hopefully the stars align that maybe you get to do that, because that's what I love about Friends of the Squared Circle. This is how you and I met, was just because you were putting on a show up in Minnesota, and I happened to have like a connection to that venue. And then now it's leading to our relationship here, where hopefully that continues to grow, so I can come out that way after the wedding to my fiance, Randy, take a shot. Another inside joke on the podcast here, if I didn't mention it earlier. But, I'm always up for adventures. I like what you guys did. I hope there's more. We talked about some stuff off camera, but it's exciting news, because it's a fresh look. And like you said, you're a tag team guy. They put on a hell of a match there. Going to give a huge shout out to last episode, the Summit with Country Air there. Yeah. Your mama's favorite tag team. So those are some cool guys that you had there. They put on a banger of a match, and hopefully we can see some more of that in this neck of the woods here.
Oh, definitely. We love where we've gone, from 2 years ago to where we are now. I will be the first or the 500th, whatever you want to call it, person to say it, that our talent in the Midwest is, it's superior to what I believe, in other areas of the neck of the woods. And with Minnesota, South Dakota, Wisconsin, Nebraska, North Dakota, I'm kind of I'm not in the middle of it all, but I'm just like, It's easy to pull from all sides there. And I've really enjoyed that, because, you get some matchups that maybe you haven't had at some other promotions. And obviously some have too, but, you go back to like tag team, like, Country Air and the Summit. That was the first time that they ever wrestled. Previously for Country Air, the first time they ever wrestled NDS was at an event for us. Our tag team division in 2023 it's going to take off, because we have 5-6 tag teams that I think are highly capable of being at the top of that division.
And I think that's what's going to set you apart a little bit too, is more of that tag team stuff because, not to name drop too many promotions while you're here, but, the ones in Minneapolis have their shtick. You've got the ones out of, Chippewa and Eau Claire, where I'm originally from, have a whole different feel. Like it's more of, not necessarily hardcore, but they do a lot more of the no DQ and that type of stuff. And, if that tag team, like you said, that's going to get even better in 2023, I think that's going to set you apart. That's my personal opinion with being different than other promotions. Kind of like I'm different here with talking with wrestlers and promoters. Like I want to know about you, the fan. I don't want to know too much about that career because every other podcast is going to ask you, what's your favorite match? What's your favorite, promotion? It's just like, everybody else is going to ask that. I just want to know about you, so.
Yeah, I love that there's a variety of, and this is as a fan, like before I even Below Zero, I always loved that there was a variety of wrestling. I've been a fan of a lot of the wrestling promotions that are still running today, especially in Minnesota, because, North Dakota didn't have a lot. We had one for a while, but that was 4 years ago, I think. And now we have two here in Fargo that I think both fill their need and their niche and everything like that. I think it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And into the cities, there's a handful, and I mean Minnesota in general. There's a ton of Minnesota. So as a wrestling fan, you are never too far away from an event, and on those events, there's just a lot of talent. There's a ton of talent.
Definitely, and I know one guy that you had there, who is my best friend, Joey Avalon. He loves me talking about that. He's always like, "Hey, friend," Joey Avalon, I absolutely think is underrated in this scene as well. Sierra, obviously, she has a lot of accolades. Though they also put on a hell of a match there with your champion. The name is escaping me. If you can help me remember,
Jack Ledger.
Jack Ledger. There we go. Hopefully, get him on a future episode. But yes, probably won't come on now that I forgot his name. He sat right next to me all night. It's just there's too many. There's too many promotions, wrestlers. And your neck of the woods has definitely got some new faces, which hopefully we can see here in the Minnesota, Wisconsin area for sure. So,
yeah, you mentioned, talent like Joey and Sierra, and, we've been fortunate to have them on a handful of shows, and they will be on our next event coming up here as well.
Perfect.
That event, Joey and Mr. Incredible, who's a North Dakota guy, did a little bit in Minnesota, but not a ton. That was, and they put on a match that, and those are guys that you don't always get to see because maybe they've worked for this promotion over here, they're in North Dakota, or they do this over in Wisconsin or whatever. So I've really enjoyed doing that, getting first time matchups to me. I just and then I watch it as a fan. I already obviously you have to watch it as a promoter, but you also watch it as a fan, and I love Joey. I love Sierra. I'm really happy that we're going to be able to continue to use them, especially at our next event. So
perfect. So put you on the hot seat. Not a pun intended at your promotion there. Is there any inside scoop that Friends of the Squared Circle can kind of get from you? Doesn't have to be earth-shattering news, or if you got a new venue, new city. Anything you're willing to give me so I got an inside scoop to show the fans here.
Yeah, no, like I said, 2023 is going to, and this is an event that we have not put out on the schedule yet. We have 100% booked it though. That towards the middle of the year, we are going to be heading west and find ourselves in a new state. So we will be moving outside of North Dakota westward into Montana.
Okay.
And, we're really excited about that. Someone reached out to us there. But in terms of, we'll give you two.
Two people. 1, 2. Count to 3.
Because we have our biggest event of the year coming up, Winter Slam. It's My WrestleMania.
Okay.
And we were just talking about Joey. And last week we had a announcement that Dirty Dango was going to be at the event. And a little birdie said that they might be stepping in the ring with each other.
Okay.
So
Now, Dirty Dango, formerly known as Fandango, correct?
Yes, former WWE superstar Fandango, who beat Chris Jericho in his first ever WrestleMania match.
That's true. That's true. Yep.
What a way to debut, right? Like, hey, here's your first match. So, real thankful to the sponsor that's bringing him in, and it's going to be a three-way. But one of we won't give away the other one, but maybe Joey, maybe Dirty Dango. So, and one other.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect. All right, Nick, we do appreciate you here at Friends of the Squared Circle. We know we talked off camera about the collectibles. He's got an episode of of Show Me the Collectibles coming out. Make sure you all check that out. Before we go, let's just plug where we can find you here. There's a graphic for you. There you go. Sorry.
Make sure to check us out: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all Below Zero Wrestling. BelowZeroWrestling.com for all of our latest events. Like I said, we have a big one coming up in February. But yeah, find us on social media. We try to be very active.
Perfect. And then as this comes out, we'll make sure to get all that stuff linked in the comments for you there on Facebook. Any final thoughts before we get you out of here? I like to call it kicking you out because then I get the screen to myself. But
yeah, no, just really thank you for having me on. Like you said, we got to meet here a couple months ago or a month ago, whenever that was. That was awesome.
Keep kicking the light. Sorry.
No, that's all right. We're really excited about getting back up in that neck of the woods too. So just stay tuned. We have a lot of big things coming for 2023. I'm really excited.
And we can talk about that more off camera so that people don't get all the inside scoops that here at the President's Squared Circle.
I got to come back for round 2 to get
round 2. Yes, definitely. Then we can promote that show heavily, as well as I'll try to get the graphics for any upcoming things you want to share. Just send them my way, and I like to show off our friends here. So anything you want me to plug, I know I'm not as big as you guys yet, but would love to just keep hanging out with you boys and girls there at Below Zero Wrestling. So
thanks so much for having me on.
All right, appreciate it, Nick. We'll talk in the lounge here, and then we'll get you out of here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is another episode of Friends of the Squared Circle. I'm losing my words here today. I've been recording a lot today. Thank you for watching, tuning in. Make sure you check out those sponsors. Darren Corbin there. You can find him on all his social medias as well as patreon.com/Darren Corbin. Our Tumblr lady there, she does an amazing job with all the custom tumblers. Maybe at our next table, you'll see us handing some of those out. Give her a like and follow on Facebook.com/Superior Creations MN. Can't forget the boys over at 13 Cards Subject to Change, where we like to make fun of Leroy's second place beard. But no, in all honesty, happy birthday, buddy. Zach, Leroy, and Jesse do an amazing job over there as well. Make sure you check out us as well on social media. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. We're getting better at constantly posting on those platforms. Find us on Facebook as well at Friends of the Squared Circle. Make sure it has the logo and not just a black dot. And also, if you want to be on an upcoming episode of Friends of the Squared Circle or Show Me the Collectibles or our new episodes that will be dropping soon of the showcase, there's our email there to get a hold of us. Don't forget to check out Below Zero Wrestling on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and their website there. A lot of good stuff coming out of North Dakota there. They are a Friend of the Squared Circle officially now. So make sure you check them out. Super cool dudes there. Nick, a huge thank you again.